It continues to be a question that many are asking. How am I doing with my finances? Well, look no further than this episode right here. Today, I want to cover the different age groups and what the average net worths are for each of these age groups. When we look at the average, you can actually get a true reality check of exactly where you stand among everybody else. And to be all honest with you, when you look at the average, it will give you just a little bump, just that little bump of motivation to make some change happen in your life. No matter where you are financially, the first step to improving your finances is to understand where you are and where you want to go. So today I'm going to provide you not only the median average net worth, but also 3 simple steps that can take you to where you want to be and ultimately leave you happier with the results when we get to the year 2023. Let's jump in.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror. Where future success is reflected in our knowledge of fixing the one thing we can control, ourselves.
So first and foremost, I truly want to say Happy New Year's. And I mean, I don't know about you. I had a magnificent New Year's. I think everyone had plenty to eat. And now's when those resolutions start. So I'll always enjoy resolutions. I'm a big fan of them. And it's always something that is enjoyable to talk about. I just wish they last longer for everybody across the board, but they don't, and that's okay because people like me and people like you, we like to not look at them so much as a resolution, but as a change, right? And we have to change the one thing we can control ourselves. And if you have listened to this enough, you've heard me say that. But ultimately, the New Year's has been great. And mine is obviously better. For anyone that's been a listener or that knows me, I am an Alabama fan, and Alabama is playing in the national championship tomorrow, and I could not be more excited. So if you are listening to this on the podcast, since it does release on Tuesday, you already know if I am still crying or if I'm extremely happy. But I don't know. We will see. But last week I did an episode on a no spin challenge. If you missed it, I do encourage you to go watch or listen, however you tune into the Financial Mirror, and dig into it. I have made my resolution. I think I told everyone what mine was, but ultimately mine was going to be to not waste money on quote unquote stuff, right? I wasn't going to spend money on things that were not truly necessary or didn't bring value to me. So I decided to join in on the no spin challenge. I don't remember if I said that I was going to join in on it, but I did. And hopefully if you follow me on social media for the Financial Mirror on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, you saw I posted a picture and mine is going fairly well. As of that date, I have to look at mine what it is today, but as of then, I'd spent $19, which was essential stuff, right? It was deodorant and shampoo, and I'd have to say that's pretty essential because otherwise no one would want to be around me, right? Nobody. So I would be a fairly stinky boy to say the least. But nonetheless, it's been great for me. No spin challenge is going good. Hopefully your no spin challenge is going just as superb. But if it's not, you always have time to jump in. Like I stated in that episode, this isn't something, no spin challenge is not something that's just a one time and you can never do it again. It's something you can continue to do. So I'm doing it for the whole month of January, and we will see how that goes. But pretty much the rules for mine are pretty simple. Nothing outside of food, shelter, gas, and utilities am I spending money on. And yes, I am restricting my food because that's a broad one. I can't just say food, right? Because that's commonly overspent if people are going out to eat. But this episode is not about the no spin challenge. Go check out last week's episode if you missed it. But the new year was great, and New Year's in general are great. They are great in the simple fact that you get to start this year sort of off new, right? Like you get to start this year off fresh. You get to start this year off with a brand new blank canvas, and you have the ability to start it off with a clear mind and be able to put everything that's happened to you in previous years behind you. Your new canvas is now in front of you. If you close your eyes, if you're driving, don't do this, but if you close your eyes and you can imagine everything that's ever happened is all behind you, and now every step that you take moving forward is for the better. That's that blank canvas feel. That's the feel I want you to go into 2022 with. So what happens in 2022 is totally up to you. Obviously, things outside of our control will happen, but how we'll react and how we will overcome those things is how our 2022 will be defined. So I did want to tailor this week's episode to this idea that we should reflect on where we are financially, but ultimately reflecting and not doing anything doesn't really provide much value. So I wanted to not only reflect, but also encourage, right, through 3 steps. I'm going to go over at the end of this. I'm going to wrap this up with those 3 steps, so that you can see some of the things that if you'll take those steps, you will be happy with the results that you see in 2023. And I think that's so crucial. That's so crucial to your finances improving, but also your personal well-being and it improving as well. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to get started because I am going to go through all the different age brackets pretty much in 10-year increments, right? And give you just a quick outline of sort of whatever age you're in. It doesn't matter. Every single age has something that they can be doing, and that's the important part. Every single age has something they can be working on, and if you'll stick to that and you'll stick to what can I be doing, not what have I done, reflect on that. I got it. Understand and identify those places that you are very common to slip up, that you're very common to not exactly stick to that plan that you had, that financial plan that you had. Identify those areas, but ultimately none of those things have to define where you're going and what you're going to do moving forward. So keep that in mind as we're going through these, and remember that everything that you've done will actually have a positive impact. It'll reinforce some of those bad habits in a good way, in a sense that you can know that you have a tendency to do that, and it can do away with it, and you can sort of overcome that already being self-aware, right? That self-awareness will really, really help pay off. So let's jump in. Let's start out with the 20s and go through this whole entire thing. So if you're watching this live and you see this chart, this was a more broader chart. I went into more detail in the actual what I'm going to say. So for the podcast listeners, you're not missing much on the screen. Honestly, this chart is very, very. I guess I couldn't find. I couldn't find a chart that presented the data the way I wanted to. And I guess I could have just made my own, but I decided to sort of give a quick glance of how you can perceive the information. But more importantly, I wanted to go over the data that I accumulated through a little bit of research that I could find on 2022 numbers. So this is based off of 2021 data. But going into the 20s, so this is anybody from the age 18 to 29. The average net worth was $39,000, and I'm gonna stick to using round numbers because I mean, if I gave you down to the dollar, it wouldn't make much difference, right? I want to be very, very just so you can hear the number. You don't have to get in the weeds, but the average was $39,000. The median is $7,800. Okay, $7,800 is the median. So what I wanted to start off in the 20s is a great place to start, right? Because if this is you, if you are in your 20s, no matter where you fall in that group, if you're above average, if you're below average, if you're at the median, whatever, don't worry, have no fear. You have plenty of life ahead of you. And I wanted to make sure I said that. There is so much time ahead of you. You will be able to start today. If you so choose, you can start today and you can make great decisions and be on your way to moving up into a higher percentile as we go through these decades. You will start to see that your net worth is growing tremendously along the way. So right here at the very beginning, I sort of want to give you a definition of what net worth is if you didn't know what net worth was. But ultimately, your net worth is all of your liquid cash or semi-liquid cash on hand. And I say semi because a home holds value, right? Is it liquid? No, but it does have a value that you can appraise and see what that value is. But it's all of those things, all of these assets, and you are subtracting your liabilities from it, and that's giving you your net worth. Okay. So I don't like throwing out the fancy asset, liability, whatever. In simple terms, if you have something that it has a value that can potentially be liquid to that, like you can make cash with that valuable item, and then you subtract everything you owe, such as debts, you will get your net worth. So if I own a house, if I own a car, but both of those things have a loan with it, I don't actually have what the house is worth or what the car is worth. I'd subtract the loan from it, if that makes sense. So that's how I get my net worth once I get all of that. And I'm talking retirement accounts, bank accounts, savings accounts, brokerage accounts, everything. Car value, home values, all these things, and I'm subtract the liabilities. I've got my net worth. So if you are in these 20s and you are just now getting started with net worth, maybe this is the first time you've heard about it. That's okay. The important thing is to know that tracking this at the end of the year or maybe every year, 2 years, whatever. I'd recommend tracking it every year, right? That's where you can see some very good growth over the year. Maybe this is a New Year resolution for you. Every year I'm going to check my net worth and I want it to be XYZ higher. I want to do XYZ to make it higher, whatever. This is a great spot. So if you're in your 20s and you have a median, below average, above average net worth, you're in a great spot. And I say that because you have time. You have time on your side. You will be able to move through your 20s and you will be just fine. Don't worry. There's just one thing I wanted to bring up to those in the 20s and 30s. This applies to you as well. But the one thing I wanted to ensure that I address right here is the 20s specifically, but some of the 30s as well. The biggest problem that I see is that so many of the people in those brackets, they fall victim to debt. So what I can say is this: the reason the median is so low and the reason why the average is actually lower is because a lot of those middle of the pack, below pack, they have negative net worth, right? Like they're in more debt than they have value. So if I can tell you one thing, is steer clear of debt. Don't get yourself in debt, and you will begin to build net worth. So stick to that motto. I'm not going to take on extra debt. I'm not going to take on debt, and you will be fine. So for the 30s, the average is 198,000. The median is 90,000, and this is another bracket. You have plenty of time in front of you, so don't fret. The difference here is that you may have a little bit more that you're responsible for at this point in your life. Maybe you've bought a house, maybe you're married, maybe you have a kid, maybe there's other life events that are happening, and they can make it a little tougher. It can make it a little tougher to give up certain things to be able to pay debt faster if you still are holding debt from your 20s. But that's okay. If you'll get everybody in the household on board, the kids, the family, the dog, everybody on board, I'm telling you, it'll make it that much easier, and you will get yourself improving that net worth over time. So this is normally the age that people, in their 30s, they begin to realize that those things that they used to spend their money on or i.e. waste their money on, they're not as important anymore. So what they wear is not as important. What they drive is not as important. The fancy vacations and all that are not as important. They just don't seem to matter as much once people get into their 30s. They still have things that they're passionate about doing and things that they're passionate about having, but they're just not as into the glitz and glamour, right? And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So if they did make mistakes in their 20s and they all have accumulated debt, the 30s is normally the age where people are realizing that and they start to pay that down and they sort of get rid of it. So that's good. For your 40s, the average is 692,000. Median is 145,000. So these are net worths. And I love this bracket. I love the 40s. I love the people that are in the 40s because you are deep into adulting. You probably are very buckled down at this point. You're serious about where you want your finances to go. This is where you're probably tapped off all that debt that you had and you realize I don't want to go back into debt. You have a warrior mentality where you're driving and you're knocking everything out that you need to complete. And the thing here is that you kind of have to accept the decisions you've made. You're sort of at that middle of the road. Am I going to do great? Am I going to do bad? Like you've got to accept what you've done, because moving forward, you can't go through life living this like woe is me mentality, because that's only going to prevent you from getting to where you want to be. So I understand that it can be a little tougher, especially if you're way below the median or you're way below the average. But don't worry about it. Keep pushing, keep going forward, and you are actually in the best position to make quick and drastic changes. And you don't believe me, but I'm going to tell you why. 20s and 30s, people are still figuring out careers, are still figuring out jobs, all that kind of good stuff. The awesome part for you is you're probably likely in the 40s already deep into a career, and you probably have a generally good income rolling in. That's great, because if you can get your spending under control, all of that extra money you can generate will go towards deliberate goals like college savings, retirement, paying off that home faster. If you still had debt, getting out of debt. Like, these are things that you can drive and you can push forward on and really get to where you want to be. So I think that's a great spot. I love the 40s, and I think if you're in the 40s, you're in a great spot to make some magical moves happen fairly quickly, much quicker than the 20s and 30s. Especially if they're still figuring life out. So for my 50s plus is how I'm going to roll this in. If you're looking at the chart on the screen, this is sort of the reason I wanted to go with this way. But 50s plus, the average is pretty much $1.1 million. The average person has $1.1 million. The median is vastly different, $233,000. So ultimately, right here, if you're in your 50s plus, right here is where you've got to start, finalizing that plan. If you not already have finalized it, if you're much later after 50, but you're not retired at 50, most likely, unless you're very on top of those finances, but you're most likely not retired in a sense that you are still going to work, or you still have to go to work, and you're still doing some kind of employment that you need that steady income. But you've got to start right here in these 50s, and plus you've got to make sure that you are making deliberate action towards these retirement plans. You don't have the time on your hands that the 20-year-old has, but the great part is you're smart and you have tons of experience, right? So you have the ability to continue to generate income. You have the ability to continue to grind, but the big thing and the important thing I wanted to bring up is don't become complacent in your role. So continue to grind at your job. Don't be that 18-year person in a 20-year job that gets a pension at 20 and they're just sitting there just cushioning the rest of their career. Really go out and grind. You can really land some good gigs after that 20-year pension and continue to make income. So keep grinding, continue to build that financial cushion. It's going to carry you through life. But one thing I wanted to provide you right here is just a little bit of guidance. But if you are in that 50s, 60s, ballpark, please start working with a financial advisor, start working with a financial coach to ensure that the decisions that you're making are very deliberate in getting you to retirement. Because if you're planning on riding this out with Social Security alone, good luck to you, because it's not a very good retirement plan. It's not a good retirement plan at all. It's very hard to survive on. So we want you to be better than that. We want you to have more than that. So get with a financial coach, get with a financial advisor. I do serve as a financial coach, and I'd be more than happy to sit down, free consultation for the first visit, and we will absolutely get you taken care of and make sure that you're going in the right direction. So now what? You got all these brackets. Now what? Well, starting off, this hopefully lights a match under you. Like, you don't want to be in that average category, and you because you want to be more than average, right? You want to be more than average. And if right now you don't fall in the average, or even if you don't fall in the median, don't panic, right? This is important to know, that your decisions that you're doing right now, the things that you're doing right now, that's what's going to impact your finances next year. So if you want to look better on your finances next year, you've got to make deliberate action today. You've got to make deliberate action tomorrow. You've got to know that what you're doing now is going to show up in the future. So if you're spending all of your money and you're not saving anything, well, in the future, you're going to realize that you didn't save anything and you spent it all, right? And that's important. That's so important. In light of this being a new year, I think this is important to see what can you do to ensure that you're taking those positive steps on your finances to move you forward. So when we get to the same time next year, you are happy with all the progress you made. So I told you I want to leave you with 3 things that you can start doing today. And I mean, literally today, you can start doing this, and it will make your 2022 finances exactly what you want them to be. So when you look at 2023, you will be happy. So the first thing is you got to write down your goals. This first one is simple. Write down your goals, like write them down. Many people have goals and it's actually never left their mind. Like they only think about their goals. They have them in their head and they're great goals. They're truly great goals, but they only have them in their head, and they've got to get them written down on paper, because statistics show people that write their goals down are 42% more likely to achieve that goal. And that is a lot. I mean, that is a ton. If I told you were 42% more likely to become a millionaire if you wrote down on a sheet of paper, I'm going to be a millionaire, I mean, who's not going to take that, right? But it's a lot. Therefore, if you will simply write down your financial goals, you are more likely to achieve it. So this could be an electronic version or a paper copy that you look at. But if you do the electronic version, there's multiple avenues out there. I could recommend you just to throw a reminder in your phone that pops up, every day or once a week or whatever, and just remind you, hey, this is your goal. Remember, you said you were gonna achieve this. That's a simple way to do an electronic version. Or if you want to write it down, the sticky note method, where people stick sticky notes on their mirror or in their car or on their refrigerator or on their coffee pot, like places that people are going to look. They put sticky notes everywhere of these goals they're trying to achieve, and it truly makes a difference. So the first thing is just write down your goals. The second, you've got to say no more often. Okay. You've got to say no more often. And this is easy because it takes very little effort. And I mean that in a sense that it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't take you doing anything. All you physically have to do is say no, right? The actual hardest part is dealing with yourself. So you don't want to say no to certain things. You just don't want to say no. But if you will continue to remember the reason you're saying no to more and more and more, you will have the motivation to keep saying no. And this is really important because, saying no is going to help you gain more of your time. It's going to help you gain more money. This could be telling a friend no to hanging out, to go out to eat, or whatever. It could be telling yourself not to go out to eat because you always do, or you've already went over your budget, or you're about to your budget. This could be telling yourself, hey, I need to close this Amazon app. I've done bought too much, right? It could be saying no to committing to a ton of requests, whether that be at your job. People are constantly asking you because, you're the most devoted employee there. I mean, I'm sure that's all I attract to listen to this podcast is super devoted people. So if that might be you, but you've got to say no to something. You got to start to get some back. You got to get back some of your time in the end, because you've got it. With that time is going to come a little bit of peace, a little bit of drive, and all that energy is going to be able to be positively put somewhere else. So what I want you to remember is this: saying no does get easier. The more you do it, the easier it gets. So the more you tell yourself no, the easier it'll become, and you'll quickly learn all the lies that your brain's going to tell you. Your brain's going to tell you so many lies, but you will quickly learn how to respond to them because of all the times you said no. And on the flip side, if you give in, at any time, if you give in and you don't say no to something that you committed yourself saying no to, it does open the door to happen more and more often. Okay. So remember that. Stay consistent, and the amount of time and money you gain from saying no will drastically increase. So the last thing, number 3, is you've got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. This last one takes the most effort because you've got to make the plan. None of your goals are just going to happen. So if you have financial goals, none of them are just going to happen. You got to make that plan that's going to walk you through step by step in order to achieve whatever your financial goals are. So the important thing is you've got to break down these goals into very small chunks. Don't try to do it all at once. So break it into small chunks and have timelines for when you're going to achieve each of those chunks. So at the end of the year, you know what your outcome is going to be because you've broke this goal down. Once you break it all down, you're going to be surprised exactly how easy it is. Like, it's not as hard as you thought it was. Once you break that down into small chunks, it's a little bit easier to manage. Everyone's heard it. How to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. It's truly about that. You've got to break it down into stuff that you can manage that doesn't seem overwhelming. So the important part of planning is if you're going to try to do it at once, you're going to quickly give up. And if you'll take it one day at a time, one step at a time, you're going to find that extra little bit of motivation to keep going, and you're going to achieve exactly what it is you want to achieve. So this episode has been exactly what I hope I hope it turned out to be exactly what I wanted it to be for you. Sort of a reality check, right? A little punch to the gut if that's what you needed, to sort of give you a guide of where you at. Like where do you fall within other people that's your age? I think that's a very good place to start. I think it's a very good place to look. And once we have that, we know where we can adjust. So this episode hopefully addressed that, and it sort of gives you an idea of how you're doing with your financial planning. And I am sure that there are many emotions that went through your head, your stomach, your heart. All these different emotions are going everywhere. But it's good to get that reality check. It really is good. So what I don't want this to trigger is a feeling of failure or feeling of defeat. Like you're like, man, like I'm not even at the median. I'm not even close. Like you said, like 7,000 is the median, and I'm at negative 7,000, but that's okay. I'm telling you that's okay. Don't let that bog you down. Don't feel defeated. Instead, I want you to see where you are right now and how if you'll take those 3 steps, that write down your goals, say no more often, and have a plan, how that can change your life moving into 2023. So that's a big thing. And if you're looking at the screen, I hope you're reading this, and I wanted to read it for everyone that's listening to this on a podcast. But if you keep going, you won't regret it. But if you give up, you will. I want you to think about all the things in life that you gave up on, right? You gave up on something and you look back on it and you regret it. You regret, why did you not keep going? Because when you look at it now, you can remember, like, man, I could have put a little bit more effort into X. I could have taken one more step. I could have done this. Don't treat your finances in that way. Keep going, keep pushing. Don't give up, because I'm telling you, if you give up, you'll look back and regret it. There's a little bit more in the tank that you can push. So if you are ready to take control of your finances and ensure you're on the right path to your financial goals, and you need someone to sit down with you and build that plan, there's nothing better for you than a financial coach. I will be your financial coach. I will be happy to be your financial coach. And you do get a free consultation. So please go to the contact form, go to thefinancialmirror.org/contact, fill out the form, and I will get in touch with you. We'll get that free consultation scheduled. We'll take a look and see exactly how we can tailor your finances to put you on track to where you want to be. Finally, if you do want to give an extra dose of support to the Financial Mirror, always go hit up the merch page. There's always new items being added. Go to thefinancialmirror.org/merch. Pick up some awesome Financial Mirror gear, from shirts to coffee from coffee mugs to mouse pads to water bottles, etc. It's all there. I truly appreciate everyone tuning in. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment and share. Leave a 5-star review and a written comment. 5-star review are specifically on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but written comments are on all platforms. So just leave a written comment. Let me know how much you enjoy the stream. All those things truly go a long way. And I wanted to say thank you for all the support that you gave me last year, and I look forward to each and every episode moving into 2022. So till next week, continue improving the one thing you can control, yourself. Peace.
Well, that wraps up today's Financial Mirror. Join us next week as we continue to work on ourselves, change our mentality, and to commit to achieving the success we always envisioned. Regardless of your platform, help us grow as a community. Please like, subscribe, and share with the people in your lives.